What is Luan, and is there a presence of Luan in any Western cultures?
Very good. Well, the Chinese word Luan or Luan is a word that is critically important for the Chinese. We have chaos. We have perhaps riots, or we have demonstrations, or we have riots, or we may have a civil war, all of which could be described as Luan. And because of the different degrees in what I just said, we react with fear the more we go to a more violent situation. The Chinese, the word Luan, is itself is a primal fear. They structure much of what they are trying to do around the fear of avoiding Luan. How do you avoid Luan? Well, for Confucius, who wrote in a period of civil wars and enormous destruction, finding a way out of Luan was a big deal. And for him, he wanted to promote harmony. How is he going to promote harmony? Well, he has a variety of techniques, all of which tie to a kind of a unique Confucian logic that starts from the inner soul of a person, moves to their family, moves to their village, moves to their province, moves to their nation. He has a specific quote. I've mentioned it in other videos, and it's a part of the readings for the course, so I won't repeat it now. But that's one of his techniques. He believes he can achieve harmony through hierarchy, something very alien to our own thinking as Americans, where all men are, the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's an alien concept, the notion of hierarchy. Yet there's some underlying reality. While we say people are equal, we mean equal before the law. We don't mean they have all the same amount of money. We know that's not true. We don't say that they shoot basketball or play basketball the same way and shoot baskets the same way. We don't say that. We don't say they can play the piano the same way. So there are different grades. And what Confucius says is, well, if there are different grades, why don't we just recognize that and just say, okay, there are hierarchies, and try to make that work. And that is his approach. His approach is not inhumane. Westerners might think hierarchies are inhumane, they're power of one person over another, but not for Confucius. The hierarchies were an underlying reality, and the way in which we made it work was by promoting reciprocity. Yes, you can be a higher-ranked person, but then you're responsible for those who are below you. Those below you are responsible for giving you prestige and listening to you and treating you like a mentor, but you have to listen to them. And it's a reciprocal change all the time. That's what makes it a humane system, and that promotes harmony. The other way you promote harmony is by having enough well-being, enough food to eat. How do you promote that? Well, you promote that through his basically economic ideas, which again are in his writings. Let the producers be many, let the consumers be few, let there be energy in production and economy and consumption, and the wealth will always be sufficient. Okay? So everybody eats, they got enough to eat, so they're not going to fight with that. And then, and lastly, and this is frequently overlooked, particularly in our age where, from our own point of view, nation states are always a risk to one another. So there's always a danger there might be a war. He says, look, be satisfied with what you got. And to the Chinese, he would say that above all. You're going to get a very prosperous country out of the deal. Just stay at home. Protect your borders, that's fine. Protect your borders, you got to do that. But any kind of adventures further abroad, forget it. Just stay where you're at. And so in that sense, Luan is avoided by not talking about it. One of the characteristics of the Chinese is the fact that they have now and always have had a very large army. They're a very large country, so okay, a large army is all right. But they would have a very big army. And yet, if you look at its function over the last 2,300 years, it's almost always defensive. I'm not saying that there's no aggression. I'm not saying there are no wars. There are. But they tend to be around the immediate area. So are they attacked by bandits from Manchuria? Fine. We'll go fight the bandits in Manchuria and build us a buffer. Keep the Manchurians far away. Do the Mongolians attack us? Yes, they do. So, okay, we'll build a buffer with them. But beyond the buffers, they're not really interested. So each one of these ideas I've just given you about harmony, hierarchy, reciprocity, no foreign adventures, by which I mean distant foreign adventures. If you do that, you're going to avoid Luan. All of these things tie into an avoidance of Luan, which I call the primal fear. Now, where does it work that doesn't seem very convenient for us? All of those things I've said so far might be unfamiliar, but they're not really hostile. But now we get to free speech. The Chinese are not very interested in that. You get free speech, and if you have elections with lots of people running, they'll start calling each other names. There might even be fistfights that break out. How about that? We don't want that. So the Chinese have a focus on Luan. Don't attack the central government, because the central government is responsible for giving you the peace, and therefore avoiding the Luan, which is again the primal fear. So if that's the case, you don't want to criticize the central government. After the fact, if one of these governments collapses and we go on to a new dynasty, then it's all right to say bad things about the old dynasty. But the current folks, we don't attack those. Now that's uncomfortable, and it has a dysfunction, because there are some times when the central government needs to be warned that their policies are not working very well. And the Chinese are a little reluctant to do that. That's the disadvantage of it. But to flat out condemn them, that's a mistake. They have a reason why they're not pursuing free speech or individual rights. They think it has the danger of promoting Luan, and that's their primal fear. Okay, so I hope that helps. Any other thoughts?
Well, is it present today in the Western cultures?
Oh, I think so. I think remember, they're not going to have Luan as the primal fear, but they have fears of disorder. If you were to talk about the presidential contest in 2016, all of the discussion, lots of angry talk, a lot of name calling, but then a lot of people who are fearful of that, so they condemn people who are calling people names and so on. The fear of disorder is present in the West. Indeed, it's present everywhere. But whether it's the central core primal fear, I think maybe not. We're willing, for example, in America, to tolerate discussion, dissent, without the fear that it immediately will provoke a civil war. The Chinese are really sure of that. They think, oh, you let it start, and then you're going to have a civil war. We say, well, let it start, we'll be tolerant of one another, and then there won't be a civil war. There are different approaches to how we do this, and understanding that other cultures are going to approach some of these same issues differently is where we start the process of accommodating. We figure out what we can do. If you're going to go to China, don't go and attack the government, please. It's not going to do you any good. You're not going to change their minds. Even if you have a gun at their head, you might change their minds briefly, but when you take the gun away, they're going to go back to doing it largely the way they did it before. So if you approach it that way, you can get a successful result.